everybody. Welcome to a very special edition of 10-4. So it's actually 10-4 the Designers, a very special edition. Myself, I'm Dan Tracy, lead technical designer here at Cloud Imperium. And we have...
Calix Renault, I'm the technical designer, here to be the new Dan.
The new Dan. Wannabe Dan at this point.
I'm being selectively bred.
He's getting there. He's taking my job. No, don't let him. Anyway, so we had 10 questions here from you guys. We just wanted to go through and answer some of them, see if we can actually answer them in a reliable fashion. So first one is, sorry if I butcher these names, it's Usugi. Will player organizations be able to advertise through in-game newspapers or billboards? It could also be help to add immersion and make player orgs seem like they're part of the PU. Actually, funny enough with that, we're looking at doing the Hull series concept, and one of the setups that's actually going to be shown to you guys later on when we actually do the whole concept sale is going to be these external panels that are actually going to be set up with a section where we're actually going to be applying billboards and like clan tags to it. So one of the things for PU that we wanted to do was actually allow players to take on these particular jobs where they can say, hey, you know what, I'm traveling from, maybe from Terra, crazy system pirates, all the way to like Stanton. So I'm going to go through several systems, and because of that whole transit, I'm going to be spending like, let's say, a few hours in space. So we're thinking that some advertising firms are going to be like requesting players to be posting particular banners on their ship for certain periods of time, so they can actually use this to place certain advertisements from in-game kind of organizations and place them on their ships. And we're thinking of even applying that similar to like, the racing, and we're actually working on a paint system right now that's going to like accommodate that stuff. Whether like Chris has said in the past that we wanted to include like custom decals from you guys, so we're looking at including like all that kind of setup for the actual, well, mainly for starting with the Hull series, but expanding that further on for a lot of the other ships.
Yeah, you should be able to represent your org with your colors and also get a little bit of that sweet ad revenue going. So
exactly, perfect. Next question is from, sorry if I mispronounce this, it's Ach or Ach?
Ake.
Sorry, guys. Yeah, I am aching a little bit anyway. It's all that parkour that we're doing now.
Yeah.
So the question is, I'm wondering what you guys are going to be planning to do for new players, as in tutorials. What we're actually looking at setting up for Arena Commander, and this will be coming out pretty soon, I believe is for 1.1.
I think it's for 1.1.
That is 1.1. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
So we're actually having the UK designers set up a tutorial level that's going to be helping you introduce you into like free flight mechanics and Arena Commander. So this is actually something to look forward mainly from the UK side, as they're going to be trying to set you guys up with baby's first steps into Arena Commander. So then that way it's not just like throw you deep into the deep end and try to expect you to know everything to do with signals and how to actually lock your missile and set up multiple firing groups. Those are all the things that we wanted to kind of help you get into, and even for those who are veterans of the game, maybe this is something useful for you guys, so then that way you could jump in and fly and be like, oh, I didn't know about, all these extra menus for like signal and power distribution. How do I actually set that up? So these are things that we wanted to really show you guys, and then that way we can have even new players coming onto the field and like have them do this tutorial for a couple minutes, and even then they'll be probably as good as a few of the veterans that are out there. So I'm really excited to see you guys try that out.
And for the veterans who are out there, you don't have to worry that this isn't a forced step into it. When you load up the game, you'll have the option of going straight into normal Arena Commander, but you'll also have the extra option of this tutorial. So it's there anytime. If you've forgotten, if you come away from the game for a while, you come back and you're like, I don't remember anything. You can just jump right back in and it'll help you through it.
Exactly. So this is a lot of stuff that we'll be actually probably adding more and more features as we build out further into like 1.1, even 1.2. There might be some missed functionalities in there, so we'll definitely let you know as to the full extent of it as soon as we get to the release of the tutorial.
So Tiger Heart has a question. So this discussion always comes up in the forums, and what we are wondering is if planets, moons, etc. will have properly simulated orbits in each star system. Do you have an answer for this?
I do. Do you?
I have no idea. I have been deep stuck inside the ships. I have not been able to see out the windows. I don't know what's going on.
Ship without windows. Oh, that's
yeah.
sad.
No, I'm like buried inside the wings, and
I know where you're buried. You're buried in cargo.
that's true. There's so much cargo. All up in my cargo.
So to answer the real question was. As some of you might have known, I actually developed the early bit of this star map back in the day for some of the like original prototyping of PU, and this was something that was shown actually at the 24-hour live stream, the first one that we did.
That still gets linked around sometimes.
I know, it's just crazy. I can't believe that's still floating around. So the prototype's there and is completely broken now, but so the idea was that this prototype was to kind of just show like a simulation of like the planets all in orbit around the particular star system. Now we've talked a lot about this actually with Austin and PU and how we're actually going to instance out certain sections of star systems, so then that way you have like a local area that's actually instanced out to a particular server. So this is like Stanton landing zone on this side of the planet, because we're still trying to set up the realistic scale of a planet in relevance to that. So what we're looking at doing, especially in terms of like reverse engineering the aspect of how CryEngine utilizes like the sun as just a point star reference. What we wanted to do, is to kind of extrapolate from like the star system to make sure that we had like a representation of the like a top-down view of the star itself in the center, and then the orbits around of where every system is going to be. So if you're actually wanting to travel from like Stanton A or Stanton Prime to Stanton 2, then that way like in its kind of yearly cycles for everything actually kind of orbiting, we wanted to change the paths that you needed to actually accommodate for. So this is something that's going to be a giant headache to make, but we're hoping to actually prove out this system, since we actually are going with double precision. We are going with this large world setup, but this is something that's going to take a long time to actually create. So we're hoping that we can do it, and we'll definitely let you know as soon as we have more information on it. Right now it's a lot of setting up a lot of the back-end servers for the basics of PU, but we haven't actually been able to thoroughly test beyond that, because we're also working on jump points as well. So that'll be something that you guys will need to check out as well. So that from that particular standpoint, I don't want to say it's theoretically possible. I just want to say that we're definitely looking into it, and we're definitely prototyping it. So definitely keep in touch, and we'll definitely let you guys know on what's going on with that.
I like hearing the word prototype. Something else to jump into.
Yeah. You should make that in Flowgraph.
Yeah.
Make everything else in Flowgraph.
T-Bone Man asks, are you guys planning on doing anything with gimbaled weapons, Class 2 weapons and the like, in regards to using the joystick? Right now, it seems like the weapons that are considered Class 2 or Class 4 are stuck just straight ahead for joystick users. Yeah, we're definitely looking at this one. I've actually been looking at this one for quite a while. Back, I don't know, even as like 0.9, I started working on a prototype with John Pritchett to try to give joystick users direct control over gimbaled weapons. It was this crazy idea to take the hat on top of the joystick and use that to guide your cursor around, less for like, normally when you use a mouse you are aiming for a one particular spot on a regular grid, but if you think about it instead as a radial movement, that's what I was hoping to do, and make it be about getting the right angle, and then you could get the right distance. I actually got it working, but I wasn't able to get it in a reasonable amount of time. I wasn't able to get it so that you wouldn't feel it, and that was really critical for what we were going with in any of the aim assists and any of the systems for turning your input into Arena Commander, into Star Citizen action, is that you need to feel only your own action, because all that stuff about translating it, you don't want to feel that. That makes it wrong. So that prototype ended up not making it in, and since we've been looking at alternative ways of doing it, one of which is the look ahead mode and the look IKs, which we are thinking of like trying out, hooking that up with the joystick, and as you fly around, you'll be able to, in a similar way, manipulate both flight and the gimbals. But it's something that we just need to get, 3 whole minutes of time together to actually do, because there's so much going on.
We have time to do stuff? What?
No, no. I invent time to do stuff, and I still can't get it done.
Where's that time machine? Can I use
I don't know when I put it.
Oh, maybe we should go back in time and find out. Oh wait.
I do not know.
So, but really, like the basic implementation of that to move that over the joystick is kind of relatively trivial. We just need to, because really, like if you think about it, it's very similar in terms of the XY axis that you have on even the gamepad, and we would want to translate that to any of the XY or any of the axes that you would want to put on any of your joysticks, like even the HODAS. If we wanted to actually put that on a ulterior joystick, or even if you wanted to, we could have that map. But that again is something that we need to provide, like the customization of the controls. And again, this is something that, since we're trying to tackle everything at once, it's just a matter of scheduling this in. Maybe that should be a 10 for the producer questions. When will you be able to schedule this for the designers to make? Oh, okay, yeah, awesome. But yeah, this is something that we needed to actually just thoroughly vet out. And controls is also like a big concern of ours, and we're addressing each one of your guys' concerns one at a time. It's just an overbearing amount of work that we're trying to slot all this stuff in. And then even with the prototype, as we're trying to put all this stuff together, it also requires a little bit of code time, because we don't want it to come back to bug smashers, do we?
Yeah, no, Mark gets enough.
Exactly.
You broke his legs with your bugs. Shattered them completely.
You bad guys. Cool.
He doesn't even have any legs anymore. He just floats. He just floats around mysteriously.
He's now Professor X.
So Spike Oz asks, given that, as described in Bug Smashers, missile explosive damage is being absorbed by the shields to various degrees as the weapon is apparently activating on contact with the shield. Does this mean that the damage from explosive cannon rounds is or will be mitigated by the shields also? Very short answer, yes. I mean, the shield behaviors, we're doing a whole pass on those, and one of those is setting up your shields to accommodate splash damage versus direct damage versus physical damage versus energy damage, and all permutations in between. And yeah, this is a thing that will pretty much directly affect it. Although the missiles, it's implied that they explode when they contact the shield. That's only if they're strike missiles. Proximity missiles explode when they get close enough and start to lose range. So it depends on the missile.
And of course, actually, in the further patches, you'll actually see some more weapon types and damage types that will have different effects on the shields as well. So definitely check back, and we'll let you know with some of the new features for 1.1. You might see a cool new gun come into play.
I don't know how to pronounce this name, so you get it.
Fenrir? Oh man,
I'm not even trying.
Fenrir. What if I shoot at a missile while it's still not launched? Does a missile targeted by the shooter have a chance to explode on its own ship? So I'm assuming that this means that the missile is armed and activated.
It would need to be.
Right. So what we were looking at doing, and this is something that CR really wanted as well, which was when the missile is actually unarmed or not even activated, not even hot, that if you actually like shoot at it and basically deal damage to the missile, it's not going to explode out of nowhere since it's not actually primed or armed. So it's just going to like just disintegrate. So that way it's like basically like an inactive kind of missile or torpedo. If you guys have ever seen like Red October, when you close the torpedo range before it even arms, then it just breaks apart harmlessly. That's the same kind of idea that Chris really wanted. So we're definitely actually looking at doing that implementation. So, but when it is armed and activated, of course, what we wanted to do is have visualizations where the front of it actually kind of like brightens up, or there's a light that's activated, so you can kind of see that it is activated and armed, maybe at a close distance. So,
Yeah.
And then you also, like, for example, with the Hornet, you definitely know that those are being armed because the doors are coming down. Since that weapon group is activated, they come down, and if you're actually shooting and hitting that exposed locations, granted if you bypass the shields, and actually hit those missiles when they are armed, then yes, they will cause an explosion. So
I mean, as much as we love explosions, and I love explosions, like don't get me wrong here, it seems like it would be a pretty well recipe for disaster to fly a freelancer miss if an explosion near all those missiles could cause a chain reaction. That seems like a short flight. So there are safety measures in place to prevent that.
for your hard points, don't put in missile launchers next to your power plant. just saying. Cool. Next one is from Space of. Hopefully that is not Spacey off or anything.
Spacey off.
Space of. How do you guys plan to address the way that turrets act? In a lot of other games, if a tank, ship, airplane isn't stationary, using turrets becomes a real hassle. Now add 6 degrees of freedom, and how do you guys plan on making the turrets effective, fun to play? It's frustrating to not hit anything, you know? So I guess in a roundabout way, you're asking that if I'm riding on, let's take a tank as a simple example. If I'm in the turret and my driver's kind of, if my driver's kind of rotating around and my turret kind of has to follow him, there was actually a setup in Crysis that allowed you to have the turret keep its rotation relative to the world. So that means if I'm riding around in my tank and my turret's up at the top here, when he turns to the right, it actually would retain its forward direction as much as it can calculate and possible, because this is actually something that we ran into same way when we first implemented a lot of the basic turret setup for Gamescom when we did the Constellation turret. So when we were actually piloting around, when the Constellation pilot was actually flying around in all 6 degrees and all those different axes, it was a huge pain in the ass to actually try to track your targets. While I was moving around and doing the piloting aspects, I heard Paul like yelling and cussing, and he's like, no, I'm going to fix this right now.
I think it was like 4 or 5 days between getting turrets working in the Constellation, and I think Chad got the first kill.
That's right. That's right.
It took days before anybody was able to hit anything before
That's
we
right.
got this stuff
That's right. And then as soon as like Paul got a hold of it, he was like, "No, I'm going to change this right now." And even actually, he had to pass this off to Mark. So Mark was actually the one doing the implementation of the turret setup. So then that way we can actually retain, since you were tracking a target and like the Constellation would move kind of sideways like this, but it would always point in the world direction that it needed to in order to kind of accommodate it. So best example actually from another game is very similar to the Halo Warthog. If you're actually riding around on that particular Warthog and the guy's like driving around and back and forth, you're always going to be kind of pointing in the same direction, so it makes it a lot easier to sit and focus on that particular target. So that's something that we've already looked at, but we're improving the turret system even further now, since we're actually doing a little bit of refactor on the seat code. But that is something definitely that we're keeping in mind as we go forward. So the next one, Dalphon, I hope that's correct. Can you turn off your ship in space and park it on an asteroid, for example, and make it non-detectable except for like visually? So this is probably signals.
Essentially, yeah. So we've got our signal system set up so that if you are not emitting any EM emissions or IR emissions, and you only have your cross section, which, yes, if you are in very close proximity to a large cross section emitter, such as an asteroid, it will increase the noise. Like, it'll be more difficult to differentiate between your shape and the craters next to you, which you would expect. If you look over there and you're like, there's an asteroid, it's bumpy. Yeah, as expected. Then you could easily miss that there's a ship there, and this exact scenario can happen. And that's an extension of the ability for things between you and the target to affect it, to affect noise for your radar, and for things beyond to also affect it. So yes, resounding yes.
Easy one. Not as long-winded as the other ones. That's got to be Dostro.
Dostro.
Dostro? Yeah. Okay.
Dostro is clearly the final boss, or it just sounds like a boss.
A boss name.
Yeah. No, we're gonna
have a dread pirate Dostro. No, I didn't say that. Oh shoot.
I'm wondering if there are any plans on iterating on the thrust power of the maneuvering thrusters. I miss the sliding about and dislike that there's a magic button that allows me to turn on a dime instantly. I miss the old concept of being able to rotate the ship and then use the main thruster to truly effect a quick vector change. There are definitely some changes coming to thrusters, maneuvering thrusters, IFCS, all these things. I mean, constant flux anyway. That's just kind of a given at this point. But those things in particular are being looked at, bring them more in line with the way that our component system is shaping up. Now that we've started actually getting it out into players' hands and seeing players swapping around the weapons and the loadouts that happen, and re-examining our old systems for flight and looking at how are those systems going to hold up to that sort of experimentation and chaos, utter chaos. And one of the things that we're thinking of is to have maneuvering thrusters derive the majority of their power from the main engine. And so there will be the thrust pipes that will move it so that if you lose your main engine, normally in order to have any sort of controllable spacecraft, you have to have fairly comparable thrust capacity on all axes, forward and back, and otherwise, you can get up to speed, but good luck stopping. And so to make up for that, we've made the maneuvering thrusters much larger than you would expect their thrust capacity to be based on looking at them. And a consequence of that is that when you lose your engine, you can still fly pretty well. The Hornet has 4, or is it? Can all 6 of those reach?
Yeah, there's 6 of them.
6 that can push you forward, which vastly outpaces their main engine. You never needed the main engine, which is obviously a flaw. And so we're looking to rectify that by making the main engine be where all this power is coming from. You lose that main engine, these maneuvering thrusters are going to only have the power that they naturally have, and you're going to experience a lot more of this driftiness. And the core of this question is about getting some of that, 3D asteroids gameplay, and yeah, we're looking at, like, we set up our flight capabilities, and as we move forward, I think honestly you're not going to have to worry too much because of cargo. I think that cargo is going to very much change the way that this feels, and you're gonna re-examine how you want dogfighters to fly relative to cargo ships, because they're not going to be the same.
And since now everything is actually adding mass to your ship, right? Yeah. It's really going to matter where you're wanting that center of balance, right? So very much like tuning your car.
Yeah.
So if you're actually going to be placing your heavy cargo setups on the one side, and we're also going to be setting up like ammo boxes to contain the actual physical not with the actual individual bullets, but the weight in volume is going to be represented. So if you're actually storing all that ammo and you're heavily weighting that to one side, so let's say a Hornet, you're putting like your Gatling gun on the right wing, and then maybe a repeater on the left wing. Well, that's going to throw you off, right? So that's something that's definitely needing to be considered, especially when you're flying with this.
Yeah, and symmetry is going to matter, because these engines create so much torque that that's actually an issue that we're seeing now. Is the 350R, there's a bug in which the 350R loses an engine sometimes, at which point it accelerates terribly, because that other engine creates so much torque that it has to operate at like 5% capacity to keep you from spinning out of control immediately. Mm-hmm. So yeah, it's going to be,
IFCS is saving you.
it's going to be very important to keep track of these things.
Mm-hmm. Totally.
So Sam Corwin asks our final question of: currently, the weapons in each weapons group fire in a linked fashion simultaneously. Will there eventually be an option to unlink the weapon firing so that one cannon fires and then the other? For example, in X-Wing, you could fire 1, 2, or all 4 of your lasers at a time.
Basically, this comes down to your weapon grouping. Really, if you wanted to actually set them up so they are in a particular like chain fire fashion, really like you. Zane is looking at setting up the weapon grouping so that we can have more customization to it. So with those particular setups, you can, if you wanted to, have everything in all these different groups, so then that way you can put on fire on weapon group 1 and 2 so that you can fire them at whatever interval that you wanted to, right? But the other one was with these particular weapon groupings that you might have a chain fire or like semi-fire on each individual weapon group. So then that way you can have an alternate fire on weapon group 1 if you wanted to, and then linked fire on weapon group 2. So these are things that are actually being looked at and expanded upon as we go. But it's all about setting up the usability for the weapon groups, and we're looking at expanding on how you're actually going to be dealing with these weapons, how you're going to be firing these particular weapons, and then possible additions on top of that is like how do I access my weapon, or individually activate or deactivate certain aspects of my weapons or even components on my ship. So then that way we have more control, and even aspects that we're looking into, which is add-ons and hardpoints on your weapons, such as like additional batteries, additional like camera systems. So then that way, if you wanted to, you could switch over to that camera system. It's not directly now linked to the ship. We wanted to move that over to the item itself. So in that way I can buy like an additional upgrade, say, hey, I want this thing to have like this particular camera system here, and then I wanted to link that into my firing group so that I can see this thing fire and alternate fire, and I can have some cool camera locations. Maybe I want to record this video and post this and have people watch me as I actually use this kind of side-on kind of camera on this thing as I destroy my target, right? So with the weapon groupings, yes, we're going to expand upon the system on how a lot of your firing mechanics work. And this also goes with missiles too. So there's actually going to be a lot more done with the missiles going forward, with especially linking to your avionics. And this actually, with the weapon groupings, we might expand upon that based on what available avionics packages that you have actually in your ship. So some of the military ones might have like more weapon groupings that you might be able to tie into, and further setups with how you're actually going to be dealing with your weapons on locking onto targets, and having your ability to have them like the automated defense turrets actually track certain different targets as well. That about sums it up, guys. So thanks a lot for your questions, and I hope to see you guys really soon.
Thank you.